Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is.
Pat O'Sullivan.
How was your weekend, Pat?
Good. I finally watched Repo the Genetic Opera.
Oh my God, my life's been so busy. I forgot about this. Yes, please. Please, let's talk about it. Yes.
After episodes upon episodes of you prodding me to watch it, I finally did. I was on a musical kick this week, as I kind of mentioned last episode. Started out with Sweeney Todd, watched Repo the Genetic Opera. I watched In the Heights. I think I watched something else too that'll come to me later. But yeah, so Repo the Genetic Opera. It was very, very okay.
Oh my God,
I
come
dug
on.
it. I dug it.
It's good.
It was kind of um
It's good.
it was kind of like, I don't know, man. You know what it reminded me of when I was in so I went to high school in the 90s, and like when I was in 8th grade, it was when The Crow came out. All right. And you know how like Brandon Lee got killed on the making of The Crow?
Yeah.
Well, like, so when that movie came out, it was like this total like goth movie. And the soundtrack was all these alternative bands that, like, originally it was just supposed to be some kind of like, D-list comic book knockoff movie, but Brandon Lee dying on it suddenly raised the profile, and then the soundtrack raised the profile even more. And it kind of like became this thing. And there's this episode of The Office where the gang is all outside in the parking lot, like playing a game or something, because they're locked out of the office or something. And they asked Dwight Schrute what his favorite movie is, and without hesitation, he says The Crow. And so like that's like The Crow is like, it was really big back in the day. It was kind of like this like quasi dark fake nerdy thing. And the kids that I knew in high school, like the filmmaker kids that like The Crow, they always like Dark City and like stuff like that. And then they really liked like the Rob Zombie movies, like House of a Thousand Corpses. They thought it was really good and like everything. And Repo the Genetic Opera kind of feels like in that vein.
Well, yeah,
But
it is.
I will say that there are things that I genuinely adored about it.
Okay.
And number one is Anthony Head, who is Giles from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV
hmm
show. He
hmm
plays the Repo Man. He plays
Yeah.
the girl's father.
The dad, the Repo Man. Yeah.
Yeah, can sing his fucking ass off.
He does an amazing job.
Yeah, and he sung a lot on Buffy too. Like Buffy had a musical episode, and then they had him playing the acoustic and some stuff. So you knew he could perform. He's also in Sweeney Todd as well, but he was absolutely fucking amazing. The music, I thought, it was a little hit or miss, but when it was good, it was really good. Like that number that his daughter does in the bedroom about being 17
Yeah.
was fucking phenomenal. And his daughter is played by the chick from Spy Kids.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the sister, all grown up.
I guess you're right, though. Yeah.
So yeah, that was really good. I didn't like the stuff with the siblings. I thought it was too fucking goofy. But you know what? If you were to actually see a musical in the theater, they usually have kind of stuff like it felt more like it. I don't think it was ever a play first. I think it was just a movie. And
It was.
but it definitely has the same feeling of a play, of a musical.
Let's talk about that sibling cast for a second, because you got Bill Moseley, it's Bill Moseley. Like
He was
guy's
the
damn
older.
near perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the older brother. You got Paris Hilton,
Right.
which is weird.
But it was stunt casting for the time, and I thought it was an interesting career choice for her to make, because she didn't do a lot of movies. She did House of Wax.
And
But
then it was Ogre from Skinny Puppy. The lead in Skinny Puppy was Pavi.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why I watched it, because I'm a huge that's like one of my number one, like out of my top 3 bands are probably number 3. I mean,
Skinny Puppy or Skinny Puppies?
Skinny Puppy. Sick Puppies is what you're thinking of. Skinny Puppy, the industrial 80s band.
Okay, no, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. But there's another band that came out that is a slight variation of their name. But no, I remember the original Skinny Puppy from back in the day.
Yeah,
the
Skinny
80s.
Puppy's my shit.
Okay.
And so that's how I found out about it, was because I'm a big Skinny Puppy fan, and I found out that Ogre was going to be in it, and he's Pavi, and I think it's so fitting, for his, because that guy's fucking strange, and I love it. But
yeah,
what an interesting. But I agree, the story. I mean, that story with all that is kind of, that part's kind of cliche, and it's just something that's a story that we've seen over and over again. But when you first see it, the first time you see it, and you go into it, blind, it takes a lot of turns.
Yeah, and it does.
And at
Yeah.
first you're like, "Oh, okay." The first turn it takes, you're like, because it makes all these weird connections and things, and I don't wanna, I guess for anybody that hasn't seen it, I guess I don't wanna spoil it, but
Oh, the thing's like fucking 15 years old. We can talk about it.
I guess that's a good point. But, like, it's taking these turns, and, like, the first time you're like, "Oh, okay, well, that was, a little bit of a twist." And then it does it again, and then it does it again, and it keeps doing it. And you're like, "What the hell? I don't like, who are these people?"
Right.
But I'm also trying to listen to the music and stuff, and aesthetically, it looks great.
It does. And from it was interesting. Like I had we talked about the 48-hour film project in the past. I had made a musical one year, and it was interesting to see that they used the same process that we did, where you could tell they recorded all the music first, and then when they filmed the stuff on stage, when they filmed the stuff, the actual actors and everything,
Yeah,
that they had the music already there for them to lip sync to,
right.
which kind of worked and kind of didn't. Like when our biggest fear when we were making Blood Spray was that it like we weren't going to be able to sync up the lips, or that editing was going to be a nightmare, and it actually wasn't that bad. And we got real lucky. And there's some stuff with some of their performances where you never like it'll be in the middle of a musical number, but you'll never see the characters sing. They're always using like wide shots, or like the characters like whipping their hair around and it's obscuring their mouth, so that they didn't have to worry about matching the lips up, right? And so that I felt like it's not, I think they did the best they could as far as like actually producing it. The sets and the costume and all that stuff is awesome. The music is good. Um, it did have kind of a cheap feel to it though, a little bit. Where like I wish they had like a couple million more dollars, or like 2 more weeks
I
to
agree with
film.
that.
You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah,
just like the production itself was just a little like amateurish, where you were like, come on guys, like you spent all this time doing this and then you're gonna botch it. You
yeah.
can't, I don't know. But
Well,
uh
they do have, I don't know if you know this, but I don't, it's not a sequel, but they did make another one. It's called The Dark Carnival, I think. I've never
yeah, no,
watched it.
because I went through, of course I spent not the whole movie, but I was on IMDb for a lot of
Yeah,
that, looking up like who did what and blah blah blah. But yeah, the guy that made that, he made another musical too.
right. And I'd like to watch. I just never have. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch it. I don't know, together. That's our homework.
There you
So,
go.
but I liked it. It's a good musical. For me, it's one of the classics. It's one of the ones that I can watch over and over again and sing the songs to and stuff
Yeah,
like
the
that.
songs aren't bad, which is a very integral part of the whole musical. Is
Right.
that
The
you
songs.
need to have decent music, and
Some of them are really good. Some of them are really good. I'm like, damn, that's a banger. And some of them I'm just like,
Eh, yeah, but that's anything. I mean, you go see a
that's
stage
true.
play, and they're not all, I mean, you look at the Hamilton soundtrack. Half of that shit's garbage. Half of it's fucking amazing, but there's a
Well,
lot
except
of.
for me again, Little Shop of Horrors, all of it is perfect. So I don't know. It's a perfect movie, perfect musical.
Uh,
It's my favorite.
okay. So that was my weekend. I watched a lot of movies this weekend. That was it,
That's
and
cool. That's fun. That's
saw Black
fun.
Widow and Fast and the Furious 9.
Ooh.
And which I'm not. We're not a film review podcast, so I'll spare you my
Yeah,
thoughts
we
on
won't get into
on
those. I guess
those.
you're right, but
But
I haven't
yeah.
seen either of those, so I don't know. I went out on an investigation and I didn't find anything. No, it's a lot more interesting than that, but I didn't. Unfortunately. So what happened was, we went to the like it's literally called the Insane Cemetery. Like that's the name on Google Maps.
Okay.
And that's what they dub it. So you get there, and it's an old cemetery that is right by currently the behavioral health center, but previously the insane asylum.
Hmm.
And so it's got and the people that were there at this, it's a state hospital. It's Ohio State Hospital, and so but it's not just that. You go there, and these grave markers, some of them are not, they don't have names on them. They just have serial numbers.
Oh wow.
And some of them actually will say things like unknown. Some of them will say specimen because they were experimenting on these people.
Yeah.
So Very sad place. And what was interesting was that you go up to it initially, and at least there's like there's gravestones that are kind of sticking out of the ground a little bit, and you can read them. But there's only like a handful of them, but there's this huge big fenced in field, and we're like, well, this is weird. They got all this blocked off for what? For just these little couple of headstones. So we kind of walk out to the end of the field a little bit more, and what we find out is that there's more. The whole thing is a graveyard. It's just that they're just these little teeny tiny little pieces of stone cut into the ground with, like I said, just tag numbers and just specimen and unknown, and then not just that, there's like animals in the area that are digging these giant fucking holes that are leading straight down into these graves.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I was like, "Uh-oh, we might see something." So, when we went though, I went with one of my best friends, and she had her child was with us, and her child's 9, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't." First of all, I don't wanna try to make any contact with anything with a 9-year-old kid there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel comfortable with that. I think that's unethical, to subject the kid to something. I don't necessarily believe that something would have happened, but I'm not going to take the chances, so I didn't. Second of all, I was obviously concerned that this kid was going to see his first dead body. Now, granted, it's all bones now, but there's holes leading right down to these graves. We didn't see any dead bodies, but it was very interesting, and it was a very sad place. I did have some odd feelings in certain corners of it, but for the most part, just kind of interesting. So then we went down to this other cemetery there. And there was other places. We had like a whole list of things, but it was a Sunday. Like one place we want to go to is the I think it's the Great American Antique Mall or something like that. Anyway, it's now an antique mall, and it used to be a funeral parlor, and it's allegedly really haunted. But they were closed, and so we didn't go there. So we went to this other cemetery, but this one I wanted to go to because it's in the middle of the woods somewhere. It's an older cemetery as well. It's in the middle of the woods, and people they call it Woolly Burger, and they call it that because there's a legend that this creature comes after people. And what's interesting about this creature is that they claim that the creature has signature big, round, glowing red eyes. So that's of interest to me. And so we go to get down there, and there was really no way that we could get to the cemetery. Like there's a road that leads to it, like right off of the main road, but it was blocked. It was blocked off. You couldn't drive. And you certainly couldn't park there because you're right, then you're gonna get a ticket. But we couldn't figure out how to like walk to it. And we tried and kind of walked around for a bit to try to figure it out, and we didn't. So needless to say, it really well, and again, I couldn't it's not like even if we could go, I could do anything anyway because we had a 9-year-old with us. It wasn't a very successful trip, however, when you go to these places and you're investigating, you should really vet the places out anyway, and it was a good vetting experience. I'm definitely going to go back. I hear with the insane cemetery that's actually the new cemetery, and there's an older one, and we didn't go to that one. So we need to go to that, and then I'd like to go back to the Woolly Burger area, and figure that out. But that was essentially, I mean, that was what I did. That was my I can't think of anything else that happened this week. It's been such a weird
Are
week for
you
me.
kidding me?
Well, not rehashing any of that back up.
what
So,
what about what's happening in the news? Do you have anything there?
you want to know about the news? Yeah, we'll talk about the news. A couple of things happened in the news. Some big things are coming up regarding the Patterson Gimlin film. Pat, do you know about the Patterson Gimlin film?
Yeah, it's the Bigfoot movie.
It's the Bigfoot movie. So there's this guy coming out saying that Bob Gimlin, who is, he's now he's the only survivor left involved. He saw Patty walk across Bluff Creek. That he's saying that Bob Gimlin, he has a recording where Bob is saying that, it's fake, and he's confirming. So a lot of people believe
Hmm.
that this man named Bob Hieronymus, if you guys don't know, Bob Hieronymus put on a suit, and he was actually Patty. Bob Hieronymus says that, and they're saying that the suit came from a man named Philip Morris, and Philip Morris has said that yes, that's my suit. However, they did make some changes to it. That's not exactly what my suit looked like. But of course, Bob and Bob Patterson and Gimlin, they were like, no. but Patterson died in the 70s, died in 72, shortly after, and Patty footage, I think, was 67. It was a long time ago. It was in the 60s, late 60s, and so anyway, so now the guy's coming out saying that, you know what, we have um another guy, not Hieronymus or Philip Morris or any of these people. Another guy's coming out saying that he's got video footage of Gimlin saying that it's fake, and that, he's admitted to it, so we all know it's fake, and but he's not going to release it until Bob and his wife die, because he likes Bob. Now, a lot of people in the community, if you ever had the chance to speak with Bob Gimlin, he is a very nice man, and a lot of people really look up to him. He's really kind of one of the staples in the Bigfoot world. But they don't want to ruin that for Bob because the guy is like 70 something, you
Hmm.
know. And so they're saying that once he dies, then they'll put that out there. I'm gonna call bullshit. Like, why would you even say anything about it at all?
Right. I mean, I can
Like,
understand like letting the guy live the last couple years of his life, having this kind of like attention or whatever money he's bringing in from it. I don't know, but
right.
you don't want to pull the rug out from the guy so that he spends his last 2 years like disgraced and hated by this whole entire community that he helped build. Um, but yeah, why would you tease it if not? If just don't do
Right.
it. Just wait till he dies and then actually
Don't
do
say
it. Why are you gonna bring it
anything.
up now and
Right.
be like, "But I'm gonna wait"?
So
You know.
I feel like that it's not. I feel like he doesn't have it. Of course, Bob, Gimlin, he says absolutely not. That never happened. So,
Well, so but let's just think for a second. I mean, what would happen if that film was debunked?
um,
I
I
mean, I
mean,
understand that it was in a lot of ways it was the cornerstone,
sure,
but hasn't enough other and I think this is something to consider when you look. I mean, well, I think I brought something. Same could be said about a lot of the UFO stuff. When you look back at the early cases, you look back at like the Travis Walton thing, which you guys are always shitting on. But like,
you guys,
yeah,
me,
no, fucking you and Kinsey and what's her name talk shit about the other one,
yeah,
Sarah.
Sarah,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
hey,
I
you
don't know
guys,
what he ever did to you guys. He's fucking take an upper decker. You guys have a house party that he crashed like a couple years ago. Jesus, man. But I feel like if you were to find out tomorrow that like Betty and Barney Hill, they were just like wackos trying to get attention.
hmm
Would it, even though so much stuff that came after was built upon that case, if you pull that, it's like is it necessarily a Jenga tower where if you pull that bottom piece out, does the whole thing collapse? Or has enough genuine research and evidence been found after that that you don't need it anymore?
Well, we have hoaxes and stuff all the time. I know I've talked about the Georgia guys who had the alleged Bigfoot body, and it was just a costume, and that went on. I mean, that went on for like a month. Like, with these guys, are like, we have the body of Bigfoot, clear as day pictures. They posted them all over the internet, and it looked real.
Sure.
And everybody was like, this is it. And then come to find out it wasn't. So, granted, there wasn't a bunch of time in between. Like I said, I mean, it was still like a month, though. But it didn't undo anything. It didn't prove that Bigfoot was fake. It just proved that Bigfoot was fake.
Right.
So that's a good question. I mean, but at the end of the day, it's not. There's I'm gonna tell you, I've talked to so many people about this, and it's not possible that it's not real. It's just not
The video or the
possible.
phenomenon?
The video. The phenomenon also, I believe, but I think that's up for debate. But then I guess if I genuinely believe that Patty was real, a real creature, then that means, yeah, I mean, it definitely is. But the video, it's not possible. We had no suits at the time, and we have things to compare it to. A lot of people compare it to Planet of the Apes and those suits because that was a big budget movie. Patterson didn't have any money. He was working on a Bigfoot documentary at the time. He was, but the problem was that he didn't have any money to fund it. So did he have a reason to go out and fake this footage? Absolutely, he had motive to go out and fake this footage. He didn't have the funds to do it. And it wasn't possible to make a suit like the thing has titties that jiggle.
Yes,
We
so
don't
do
we
I.
yes,
I
but this
mean,
is not. But you're not a suit. You're a person. We didn't have that technology in '67.
to make titties jiggle.
No, we didn't. We didn't have that back then. You have muscle movement happening below this suit. We had nothing like that then. Otherwise, we would have used it for the movies and things like that. Disney, the Disney people have come out and said we could never make something. All these people have come out and said we could never make something like that back then ever. We didn't have the technology, just didn't have it.
Yeah.
Didn't exist. So therefore, and they shot it on a again 67, one of those fucking cameras. So it's not like it was manipulated it like digitally because it wasn't digital, it was film. It wasn't one of those things. Not that you couldn't manipulate things, but it just wasn't. There's no way that could have been anything except for exactly what it was.
Well, I'm of the opinion that never say no. I'm sure people have examined the film and done frame by frame analysis, and they can measure the jiggling of the titties and all this
The titty
stuff.
jiggle.
And apparently, Michael Eisner's looked at it. But I mean, my whole point is this: is that I don't think, even if that video is found to be bullshit, and I'm not saying it is, but I don't think that it brings down the whole, you know it doesn't undo everyone else's investigative
I agree with
work
that.
that's come since. It would be unfortunate, and it would be a blow, uh a moral blow, a blow to the morale of
It
Bigfoot
would.
investigators everywhere. But I
It
don't
would hurt
think
our
that
feelings.
it wouldn't be the nail in the coffin. It wouldn't completely disprove that this thing could exist, or whatever the nature of
Right.
it is. um it would just, I think it would be more of a cautionary tale than anything else. But when you think about how much good that film did do, as far as generating interest and sparking
Sure.
imaginations and inspiring people to go out and look and do the field work, I mean, regardless of whether or not it's real, I think it helped prove Bigfoot more than it would have if you know what I mean. Like, it still kind of did good things and had a positive
And I'm just gonna,
ripple.
I'm gonna go back to it again. So you're some guy, you're making a Bigfoot documentary, you believe in Bigfoot, and you go, you know what? I'm gonna fake it. I'm gonna fake it and get interest in this. And I'll tell you right now, it's never, as someone that's currently making a documentary about these things, it's never crossed my mind to fake a Mothman sighting or anything like that.
Yeah, but I
So,
mean, look at all the criticism that the Discovery Channel people get all the fucking time.
well, what do you mean?
I mean, like, where I was in a clubhouse room and I heard them shitting on them for doing that. That,
Well,
like,
because they do fake the stuff. They
right? Well, there
do.
you go.
That's
There you go.
Hollywood.
That's exactly. So yeah,
You
I
know,
understand why someone would
But
do
hold
it.
on, I'm not done yet. Hold on.
Okay, all right.
So you go, but let's say that he did, right? And he's like, I'm gonna fake this and I'm gonna get real big and whatever. And then he goes, okay, let's go, let's go find somebody to. I don't have any money, so somehow I pulled money out of my asshole and now I have it. It's magical and whatever. But now here's all this money for the suit. I'm gonna commission somebody to make this suit. You know what? Let's put titties on it. I mean, what what sense does that make? It just doesn't. Anyway, she's got titties. I mean, that's just. I mean, that to me. That's like the biggest like piece of evidence that there is. That it's. It
Well,
doesn't matter. Put your money.
the guy that made the suit, did he say that he made it for free? Because you're saying that somebody claims to be the guy that
No,
made the suit.
no, they paid for it. He's saying it was like a $10,000 suit or something like that.
So
It
he's
was
saying
just
that they
something
had $10,000 to give him for the
right to give
suit.
him to make this suit.
Fucking pull his tax records, shit.
Right. Let's figure it out. I don't know
Yeah.
if they had that back then. Back in the '60s, I don't
Taxes?
know.
Yeah, people were paying taxes in the 60s.
Yeah, but all they'd have to do is pull out cash
I don't
and
know.
hand it over in cash. But you'd have to believe that this man had that much money to begin with. The guy was losing his home and shit. Like you didn't have any money to do this.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It doesn't matter. But you're right. You're right. It doesn't take away. It doesn't take away from all that. It is the biggest piece of evidence, I believe, besides the DNA, the genome project, Erickson project. It's the biggest piece of evidence that we have. It makes it more real for people, and it's very important.
I think if anybody is, and this isn't like a sideways dig towards you, I think it's just me making a comment in general. I think if anybody's serious about getting to the bottom of what these things are, whatever these things, air quotes, are for you, be it Mothman or Bigfoot or aliens, I think you have to be willing to accept that some of the evidence that you may have taken as gospel truth is bullshit.
Well, I
And
agree with
I think
that.
everybody has to be prepared for,
for that possibility.
yeah,
I
for
agree.
time. And as time passes and people are on their deathbeds and they fucking say whatever, I
Yeah.
think you have to be prepared for every once in a while, you know, finding out that, that awesome abduction story that, captivated your attention when you were a teenager or whatever. It's not
Yeah.
fucking real.
It's
Or
just bullshit. Yeah.
yeah, or that picture that someone had that was amazing, not fucking real.
Not really
Perfect
real.
example. I don't know who, I don't remember the guy's name. There was some dude that was on fucking Larry King that had videos of aliens outside his window. You ever seen
Okay.
this?
I don't think
Okay,
so. I
it's
don't
all right.
know.
It's probably before you were probably in fucking grammar school when it came out.
Yeah, I never watched Larry King.
Okay, but that's how crazy it was because Larry King didn't usually do woo woo shit, right? But Larry King had this guy on, and he was an abductee, and he had video footage of aliens outside the windows of his house, and he had been visited a couple times, and he had been abducted, and he was like going through some obviously terrifying shit, and he set up cameras, and he caught all this stuff, and it's on YouTube. You can look it up. And Larry King had the guy on because this was strong fucking evidence. These are and they weren't crazy CGI videos. This was in like probably the late '90s, early 2000s or something. Um, but come and I remember watching this stuff and being absolutely floored. Like couldn't sleep, fucking edge of my seat, chain smoking cigarettes while I'm watching this. Like kept me up awake, like just
Yeah, that would
totally,
have scared the hell out of me.
yeah, totally like captivated my imagination and was like, oh my God, like this is on Larry fucking King. This is on CNN. Like this is the real deal. This shit's about to fucking break. Come to find out, a couple weeks after this dude's on CNN, he was full of shit. They were fucking puppets, but they were real good puppets.
Yeah.
And this guy made fabricated some really fucking good evidence, and it was enough to fool Larry King and CNN. And once again, Larry King didn't do woo woo shit. That's how good it was. And yeah, it's kind of a setback, and these people do more harm, when they do stuff like this, because it makes people just kind of write off everybody. But that's the nature of it, I guess. I don't know. You got to be prepared for that to happen. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying I think that's the case with the Patterson Gimlin tape, but like, you
Well,
know,
and I agree with that. One thing that I find being a newer person in this field, a younger person in this field, is like, when I first started getting into it, some of these people that I thought were my heroes, like now that I have my own theories and things like that, I kind of don't like them anymore. I don't like those people. Like I realize how close minded they are, how sure they were, but like I trusted them because I wasn't, anybody. I was really into this stuff. And but another part of the job, and I say this all the time, the first thing that you do when you investigate anything is try to you use your process of elimination. You have to look at things that we know and things that we have scientifically that we can already prove, and kind of deduce from there that, well, it isn't this. So then it might be aliens, or it might be Bigfoot or Mothman, whatever. And
hmm
so skepticism is a huge part of the job. You have to have it. And so, if it did come out, I would like to believe, and I do believe, that what we saw in the Patterson Gimlin film is 1,000% a Bigfoot. um, but if it did come out that it wasn't, I would have to accept it and move on. I would have to. It would hurt my feelings. I would probably cry.
sure.
Probably would. I'd be very upset. But if that's what it is. But at the end of the day, as far as this guy's claims go, either Pixar didn't happen, my guy. Where's your video? Where's the video? Show us. I mean, why'd you even say anything if you're not going to show us? To me, that speaks bullshit. But I guess we'll have to wait. I mean, I don't want Bob Gimlin to die, but we'll have to wait until after the guy dies to find out. So we'll hopefully that's later rather than sooner. So that's where that is.
So I do want to take a step back from something I said a second ago. I tried to look up the footage of the alien guy on Larry King Live, and it
Uh-huh.
ends up Larry King had a lot of UFO people.
Yes, yes. I believe I did find him though. I think it's the guy. I was looking it up while you were talking. I believe his name is Seth Romanek. Romanek? Seth Romanek? Is it Seth? I don't know. Romanek's his last name. I think it's Seth. So it's there. Stan Romanek. So I believe that's who you're talking about. But I don't know for sure. You will have to tell me. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, this is the guy, and it ends up he's a fucking
sex offender. Yeah,
yeah.
he's a
Well,
bad guy. So fuck that guy.
yeah,
Fuck Stan Romanek. I'm gonna tell you guys right now. But I do see these. Actually, I have seen this. So I'm very aware. If you're into this type of thing and you go look them up, just even the Google Images, you'll see that it's a very popular one. Um, well, moving on from that guy and this situation. More news. There's a very super crazy place in Georgia called Lake Lanier, and a boat caught on fire over there on Lake Lanier. Now, the reason why this is significant at all, and we're talking about it, is because Lake Lanier is like haunted as fuck. Like it's super, super haunted, and cursed. Some people believe that this lake is cursed. Last week we talked about the ring of fire in the ocean or whatever, and now it's Lake Lanier. But you know, I after seeing the news of like this lake fire, and like I said, they were like, oh, this boat caught on fire on this haunted lake. I mean, really clickbaity, title.
yeah,
And I look into it a little bit more. This place does have a really high rate of deaths that happen in this lake, and I don't know if it's because you have to be somebody has to be the top, right? Some lake somewhere has to be the number one, and maybe that's it. I don't know, but there's allegedly like there's been like over like 200 drownings in this short period of time, and it's not like 6 months or anything. It is a couple of years time. It's like 20 years time or something like that, but that's a lot for a
right,
lake. And it's got countless dead bodies in it, and again, just stories of things being place being haunted and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. So I don't know, guys, probably don't go to Lake Lanier in Georgia because you'll die. So that's thought I mentioned some spooky. Speaking of spookiness and water, with that being said, happy Shark Week, everybody! Happy Shark Week, Pat.
happy Shark Week to you too.
Do you do the Shark Week thing? Some people it's a big deal.
Hell no, no. I don't know. That started like when I was in high school, and I don't get why people like. I don't know. Did you not have National Geographic as a kid? Like it's a big deal because the Discovery Channel shows fucking shark documentaries or
Shark
something.
documentaries all fucking week. I don't know why it's a big deal, but it's exciting because usually that's when they'll pull out their. For me, I mean, usually that's when they'll pull out their like fringe stuff. So they'll start talking about not just that. Like I remember the Animal Planet has that mockumentary. It's not real. Stop coming to me telling me that mermaids are real and it's a government
Oh
cover up. They're
yeah,
not real.
yeah.
But they have the two mermaid, mockumentaries on there that they'll show during this week, and they'll talk about like the colossal squid, and they'll talk about our friend the megalodon, and that one's a hot one. That's a big one. Even for people that aren't into cryptozoology, they're still into like the megalodon. I don't know why
Well,
exactly.
does the megalodon fall under cryptozoology? I mean, I think it's just
Absolutely.
established at this point, right? Like, is
It
it
is
is
established, but cryptozoology is also animals that we believe to be extinct that are still here.
okay? So
So
if if
there's
if the megalodon still existed, it would technically be a cryptid.
people that believe that the megalodon is still out in the waters. That falls into cryptozoology,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of people that and it's probably. I mean, I would say that it probably rivals things like life on other planets, which is a big. Most people believe that there is life on other planets. Just whether or not they visit us is another thing. But a lot of people believe that the megalodon is out there. Like I said, even people that don't. My mother is a big skeptic. She didn't care to talk about any of this stuff. She thinks that the megalodon is still out there, and
And where do they think it's living?
in the ocean.
Yeah, but like, because that was one of the things that I found in my research for this week's episode is that sharks primarily live in warmer water. So
Hmm.
this idea that a shark could be this big and kind of not be found because it hides in the trenches
Hmm.
doesn't make sense because sharks don't like water that cold.
Well, I think that is a good point.
A very unscientific, mumbled point, but you get what
However,
I'm saying.
it just depends on the sharks that you're looking at. I mean, we do have some big ass sharks. You ever seen basking sharks? It's huge.
Yeah.
They're huge, and so therefore, would a megalodon really be a stretch? And we don't see basking sharks like that on the regular. They don't really stay around us. They're actually pretty elusive, and they're hard to photograph and take video of and stuff like that. We don't see them that often, which is weird because again, they're big. Now, whereas like you have, you know, like a colossal squid, and those guys live in the deep, deep depths where nobody's ever is. Therefore,
Mm,
that makes sense. But we'll talk about that a little bit to kind of talk about this argument. But if you don't know what a megalodon is, it's a big ass shark.
sure.
That's what it is.
Between 50 and 100 feet.
And that's huge.
Right.
So I had always thought that Jaws was a megalodon. It's not. Did you know that Jaws is not a
No, I
megalodon?
knew Jaws was a great white.
I had no
They
idea.
say that in the movie. Quint does.
Well, they probably did. I guess like I watched it as a kid, and I haven't seen Jaws as an adult, if I'm honest with you. But I always I was under the impression that it was a megalodon, but then I mean I just found out that it's not. It's a great white with gigantism. It's weird. Like it's supposed to be a big great white, like a bigger than normal great white, just not a
Mm.
megalodon.
No,
Whatever.
yeah, it's a great white. Jaws is, I mean, being a movie guy, I mean, I probably, if I don't watch it once a year or on the 4th of July, it's once every other year. I mean, that's something
Mhm.
that I could put on if I'm flipping through the channels and I see it on AMC, I'll stop and
And
I'll
watch it.
watch it. I just talk along with it because I know every line and,
It's a classic, you know.
yeah. I mean, it's a
Everybody's
horror
seen.
movie. It was the first blockbuster. It was the first movie that, like, where everybody went to go see it, and it was a fucking horror movie about a killer shark.
Yeah.
Hollywood did not expect that, and it started the summer blockbuster.
Hmm.
It totally revolutionized film. But like, yeah, yeah, it's a great white shark that and the first one that just kind of moved into the coast of Amity and was just eating fucking kids.
Right. So if you haven't seen Jaws, go watch Jaws. What's wrong with you? Go watch Jaws. Why are you listening to the show, man? Go watch Jaws.
Yeah.
But I guess I should probably rewatch Jaws. But anyway, so back to megalodons. So megalodon's a really large prehistoric shark. Okay, and the thing is really up for a lot of debate. Because we don't really know what it is. We
We
don't.
we just
Go
keep
ahead.
finding its teeth and its poo.
Right, and that's because, sharks are mostly cartilage, so when they decompose, there really isn't anything left.
Right.
So we've got nothing to really go off of. So everything about the megalodon is again, it's based off of the feces and off of its teeth,
Oh
and
my
that's
god.
it. That's all we know about it.
You're really gonna say feces and make me look like a dick for
Feces.
saying poo.
Well, you said poo.
Okay.
I said feces. Why do you feel like a dick for saying poo? Poop.
Because you had to like
Shark poop. Do we want to do
fossilized shark turds.
fossilized dung?
Right. But I think that's so fascinating too, is that like, because most people have heard of the megalodon, and to think
Mhm.
that like the basis for this creature existing is they never found a skeleton, right?
Never.
It's not
First of
like it
all,
was ever observed in nature,
right?
in recent times at least. There's old fucking
Mhm.
sailor tales and stuff. But the fact that we found these giant teeth in the ocean and and then these fossilized turds and backwards engineering these small little snippets of evidence, that's what they're using to construct this whole entire narrative about
Right.
this 150 to 100-foot giant fucking shark.
Yeah.
It's like we
Right.
found this one tooth, and if we know that the tooth is like this, then we know that the mouth has to be like this, and if we know the mouth is like this, then we know the body has to be like this, and if we know that the poop and what I had read about the poop was that because of the way that it's like imagine like soft serve ice cream coming out on a cone, the
Yeah.
the way that it's spiraled, they know like how it's like intestines were formed and like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, which is amazing to use those those like far like you're talking about one end to the other, right? From its mouth to its ass, and you're filling in the blanks with everything in between, just
Right.
based on these two little snippets of evidence. Number one, I think that's absolutely fascinating that
It is.
science can do that. Number two, I think it's incredibly suspect because you know.
Well, we
Well, I
got
mean,
no
I'm
idea.
not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying that you know I think it's awesome that we can fill in the blanks with just a piece from over here and a piece from over here, but all that gray area in between, you got to kind of look with give it a little bit of a margin of error. You know what I mean? Because
But that's the problem, and we do though. That's the problem. It's not classified. Like we don't even know where this thing fits in the shark family.
hmm
We don't. Now we have theories, and for a long time it was believed to probably look a lot like a great white, except
hmm
bigger. But now we're finding that it's possible that it could have been a type of basking shark because those things are fucking big. But we don't know because we only have teeth and poop to go off of. You know what I mean? So it's weird because otherwise everything else it's just you can make it look whatever however the fuck you want to. If you want it to be like a swordfish with like a big old sword nose, you could because we don't
right.
know. We have no idea. It could be a fucking it could be a squid with teeth. It probably isn't, but it could be. We have no idea. We got no way to prove that it is or it isn't. And so that kind of brings up the matter of is it possible that they're around today? Now, a lot of people would say no because something that large would take up a lot of food source and we would know about it, which not
Eh,
true. Not
yeah.
true because colossal squid, we know that, right? And
Right.
those things are predatory. Like they do. We see the markings and shit on whales, and they're not afraid of them, So, um, so we know that that's not necessarily true. However, those are big teeth. We can carbon date these things, and we know that they're really really old. So we just assume that they're not around anymore. Like we're just like, well, okay, it must not be around. It was around a long time ago. Well, another guy that we've talked about. That's another which people talk it to death in the cryptid community is the what is it the coelacanth, the big prehistoric fish. We've talked about that on the show before,
Mhm.
and that thing stood the test of time. And it shouldn't have, it should have gone extinct with everything else, and it didn't. It proved us wrong. So then that calls into question. Well, then what else is out there that stayed around? And I say this a lot: if prehistoric animals are going to exist, it's likely going to be in the water, or at minimum, it's going to be able to fly. And so now here we are at the megalodon. Now another good possibility is that this thing is it has evolved but become smaller over time.
hmm
So it could be that the great white is the same thing as the megalodon. It's just that it didn't make sense for it to be so large as other species and stuff didn't stand the test of time and did, kind of weed themselves out. So then in order for that species to survive, they would have had to have become smaller so that they could intake less food and change a little bit. So
hmm
it could technically still be around in a species that we currently know. We just don't really we would need to have other pieces of evidence to kind of link those things together. And then again, it could also be a known species with gigantism. It very well could have been. Why can't they have gigantism? They absolutely could. It's just a genetic mutation,
hmm
and that's all it would take. So it's a very interesting topic because there's just so much that we don't know about it. I don't know. What do you think it probably looks like, Pat?
I just thought it looked like it would look like a big shark.
Like a great white.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew of it. Like something like this was obviously on my radar as someone that liked horror movies and weird things and cryptids and whatever. So I knew about this. Um, I don't know as long as I knew about shit, but there's a series of books that they turned one of them into a movie with Jason Statham called The Meg, and
Yeah, that was
that came,
recent.
yeah, that came out a couple years ago. I went to go see that in the theater. It was very disappointing. However, what I thought was cool about that movie is that it makes the claim that the there's like a different like ecosystem underneath the Mariana Trench.
Mhm.
And when they go there, like they're doing some like digging or I don't know, like the oil fucking digging or something, and it opens up the trench and or a part of it, and the sharks about was able to kind of swim out, and that's why. And so they live kind of separate from the general body of water, the general ocean, and they're kind of just like sporadically introduced into the ecosystem. And that I thought kind of made sense. That would explain how, they just kind of pop up from time to time, or their fossils or the teeth pop up from time to time. And they're not like out there actively right now. There's a huge school of them, swimming around in the oceans, and we're just not finding any of them ever, because that would be a little hard to conceptualize, right? The fact that there's these
Sure.
giant fucking sharks that are swimming all over the
Hanging
ocean.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
just, we're constantly missing them. And nothing's ever washing ashore, and we're never coming up with anything except fossilized teeth. That they're not even coming across like fresh teeth. Like all the teeth they're finding are like thousands and thousands of years old, which is puzzling because as we learned last week, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. So I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it definitely could have existed at one point in the Earth's past. It's definitely a cool thing to think about. Giant fucking sharks. Um, but as far as them existing today, probably not.
Okay. Fair.
With the amount of fishing and general polluting we've done, I mean, we're setting the ocean on fire every other week. That we've probably killed off a lot of more shit than we even knew existed.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but I'm
I
looking
think
at a
you're
map now of where the fossils were discovered, and it's interesting because it's all like northern hemisphere. It is kind of along, which is typically the colder region of the planet. Southern hemisphere is where you have stuff
Mhm.
like Africa and South America and Australia. But you're seeing most of the fossils along east and west coast of the United States, around Europe and Britain, and then on the other side here along Japan. So definitely they're staying coastal. I mean, but that's where you're going to find fossils is where the water meets the shore. You're not going to find them in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Right.
But I mean, it could, the whole argument of water temperature, and that's why the idea of them living in the depths doesn't make sense, is because they were probably more accustomed to warmer temperatures. I don't know. I don't think the science necessarily makes that strong of a case for that. So maybe they are still cruising around down there.
Well, I mean, a good, like I said, I always I love to bring up the squid because it's just insane. I mean, it blows my fucking mind every time I think about it and how new it was discovered and how these things just live out there and we've never found like really like I think we found one complete body, but it's not even the biggest one, and the only reason why we know that is because we find their tentacle arms and they're huge, you know.
Hmm.
So like we estimate what the size of those things are without really ever observing them. We
But
just accept that they
when
exist.
we find those, aren't they like bitten off? Because that was the other thing I remember too, is that like, yeah, we find these like carcasses of these giant squids. So it's like, what the fuck is killing the squids?
Well, right, exactly. What is killing them? You're right. I mean, I think that we can't. I don't know if we can prove or disprove if they're bitten off or not exactly, but there's definitely other claims. Like I said, injuries to whales and things like that. That nothing in our waters currently can replicate, and that's one of those things. But one major discovery that happened that I think kind of called this into question even more was in 1976 is when we discovered the mega mouth shark. We had no idea those things existed until the 70s.
I didn't know until 30 seconds ago. Shit.
But those guys are big. Now they're not, I think they're like up to 20 feet or something like that. Like they're not huge, like the Megalodon. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, just last year we discovered a new species of beaked whale, and they're big.
Hmm.
And these things were just kind of, and we misidentified those. Actually, we had caught this thing 3 years prior to us actually officially discovering it. They'd caught it and misidentified it as a different species of whale, and was just like whatever. But then they found another one, and they were like, "Oh, this is something different," and classified it. And now it's now it's discovered. So I mean, shit like that just happens all the time. I mean, just this week, every week, there's all these different there's all these different discoveries. We just had a discovery of some bird that we thought was extinct, and it's not, and it happens constantly. But yeah, the mega mouth shark, that, like I said, that happened in the 70s, and obviously it's out there, and it's it prefers it prefers certain temperature water and things like. It's just something that we shouldn't have been able to miss, and we did for a long time, and then now it's here. So I mean, is it still out there? I mean, I don't know. Does it matter if it is?
You know what's interesting? I'm doing some research while you're talking and listening to you at the same time. Some of these teeth were actually found in mountains.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah, that they were not found just necessarily along the coast, that they're found in mountainous regions, um, on land, and which obviously says that they, we're talking pre-continental shift, um, when the Earth was kind of arranged differently. But
Yeah.
or
That's
the,
very interesting. There's a story of gosh, and I think I've told it on the show before, but I keep not getting the details of it because I always forget. But I know I've looked it up again, and it's there. But there's a story of, like, there was a shark found, like, in the middle of, actually, okay, so there was a shark body found in, like, the middle of, the forest somewhere in the middle of the United States, and nobody really knows how it got there. Just a full, complete fucking and I believe it was, like, a nurse shark or something like that, but a complete shark. And then last summer, along the Ohio River, I'm sorry, the Miami River, but locally here in Dayton, somebody was walking along with their dog or whatever and found a whole entire fucking shark head on along the river. And everybody was like, "What?" And there's, like, pictures of it and everything. They're kind of gruesome because it's just the shark head. But, kind of weird because, they were like, "What's a shark head doing?" And it was a nurse shark, so it's big to be in a river. And they're like, "What's a shark head doing on the shore?" Like, and what the hell ate the rest of its body? Like, where's the rest of the body at? Come to find out, and I'll post the article. I'll post it here in the description. But come to find out, it was a lady had bought it at. We have a really crazy grocery store here called Jungle Gems, and they sell all kinds of crazy stuff. And she bought the shark head there, and she was using it as bait and, to fish. And when she was done with it, she just left the head there. So that was a human, and she's charged with it. They charged her with leaving that because you're not allowed to do that. And it's like, okay,
no
well,
dumping.
but you're right, no dumping. But I mean, weird stuff does happen. So, it's kind of strange that those shark teeth are found, like you said, more in, like, mountainous, like, on land areas. Like, what does that mean? Is that just because of the way that the water was back then? I mean, what, who knows? I mean, or did someone just fucking dump a megalodon body there way back when? I don't know.
I
Who
think
knows?
when the floodwaters receded, they were trapped.
From the biblical times, from Noah times. That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. They got stuck there on land. I had no choice but to just rot.
Right.
But it is an interesting. I mean, people are very fascinated by this. The megalodon is actually one of the questions. I mean, that's something that I get asked my opinion on a lot. Why do you think people are so, and like I said, people that don't even believe in fringe sciences believe that the megalodon's still there? Wow. Why do you think that is?
Because it's a shark, and that's why Shark Week exists. Because people have, I think it's because of Jaws, number one, being such an effective horror movie, but also because we're humans. We're on land. We pretty much rule the land. But when you go in water, you're off your guard, you're off your balance, you're not in a position of power anymore, and you can go from being, we're arguably the apex predators on land given our use of tools and stuff, right? There's
Sure.
not too many things on land that we can't kill. Maybe not necessarily barehanded, but with, like I said, with tools and shit, right? We are the most dangerous creatures on land. However, you put us in the water and our effectiveness drops significantly. So there's a certain vulnerability that we feel about the water. Yes, we like to go swimming for recreation. Yes, we need to drink it. Yes, we like to fish in it. But at the same time, when we're there, we're almost in another world, and we're very susceptible to the predators that exist within that world. So that's why I think the idea of these sharks, which are the apex predators of the ocean, kind of like they're on our radar, right? And we're fascinated by them because we realize that in most situations they could fucking kill us and we'd be absolutely powerless to stop them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You in the ocean, you drop a shark in a body of water, you in a body of water, shark in a body of water, you're pretty much fucking dead, right? No two ways about it, unless you have
Right.
highly specialized training or gear or something like that. Okay. Now you could say the same thing. Well, what about a lion on land, right? Okay. Well, you put a lion on land, and then you give a human an AK-47, which most people's uncles own at this point, and they're gonna kill the fucking lion, right? They're gonna kill the bear. We have access to tools that can easily mop up any type of land-based predator, but the ocean's completely different.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
agree
take.
with
That's why I
that.
think we're fascinated by him so much. And for me, it's not so much the sharks because like the sharks are like yeah whatever, but like giant killer squids like that fucking freaks me out.
I'm scared, yeah, because that motherfucker can grab you. Like,
Right, right.
a shark cannot, and sharks for the most part, like, they don't really attack people, and they really don't. Like, they're pretty docile. I mean, the only time they chomp is when they're hungry and they're kind of dumb, but
Hmm.
like a squid, those things, man, they're alien. There's something horrifying about them. And
Right.
can you imagine?
They're also a lot bigger and they're also a lot more current. Like those things are around now. There
Right.
was footage that came out. I mean, honestly, now it's probably been about 10, 15 years, but I remember that off the coast of Japan, they caught footage of a giant squid. Didn't they? Like they actually had them
Yeah, 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 that
swimming
was a big
around.
deal. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
It
So I
was a
mean,
giant squid. There's the giant squid and then there's the colossal squid, but the giant squids are still like 15, 20 feet.
and is the colossal squid a cryptid or is that just
The colossal squid is approved. We've never seen it alive, but we've gotten one complete specimen plus the tentacles. I think we have one video of it, and it's fucking horrifying. But they are upwards of 50 feet, probably more, because they'll just continue to grow as they live. But that's what we speculate is they're about 50 feet, which
uh,
is huge. You know what 50 feet looks like right off the, you might because of your job, but I mean, maybe measurements and stuff, but 50 feet is big.
it's
A
five
school bus
stories.
is like
Yeah.
a school bus is like 20 feet, right? It's big. So when you think about that, like I said, that thing will grab your leg and will pull you under, and then it'll fucking beak you to death. They got a beak. They'll fucking they'll fucking go straight for your spinal cord. I've thought about this a lot. Your brain stem fucking beat the shit out of your brain stem. No, thank you. You're gonna drown and fucking get beaked to death at the same time. No,
Yeah.
they're horrifying. But like we've kind of talked about before, the ocean in general is scary.
It is. It's very
There's
deep and
so much in it
mysterious.
that wanna kill you, like, there's so much, and anywhere from, colossal squids with their scary arms to megalodons to, little parasites, you know what I mean? You get stung by a jellyfish, you're done, you're done for, they're not having it, and so it's scary, the little tiny teeny tiny fish that'll swim in your pee hole, I mean, it's a scary place.
See, that's
So,
why you should get sounded on a regular basis to make sure
have
that
you
there's
ever oh my god, we're not gonna talk about sound.
it's just to make sure that just to make sure there's nothing in there, you know?
Oh my god. Are you trying to tell us something, Pat? I mean, I'm not here to kink shame. That's if
Of
you are
course.
you
Yeah, you are. You're
no, I decided it's not my cup of tea, but like if you want me to stretch your dick hole, I'll try.
well,
But
you know you can buy that stuff on Amazon.
oh yeah, I listen, I know one of my best friends, I'm not gonna name names. You know who you are. You dirty, dirty person, you. They're in a sounding. And they are. And it's a couple. And she bought her husband a camera to stick in your pee hole
Oh
like
my
that,
god.
and that was like a big
Do you know how
thing.
supposedly that was introduced to Western culture?
I do not.
The Iraq War, Operation Desert Storm. When
Why?
because that's like a really big thing in the Middle East. And when our guys went
Oh,
over there, it's like, what do you do during downtime? Like you go in town and you bang hookers or whatever. That
yeah.
they were introduced to it through that, and they brought it back with them, and that's why it's like a thing now. Is because soldiers bringing it back in the '90s. I don't know if that's true, if that's an urban tale. I actually read that in a Chuck Palahniuk book, the guy that wrote Fight Club. he had a collection of short stories, and one of them was called Guts, which I actually think you can find for free online. And it talks about sounding. That was how I was first introduced to it, was via his story. And he talks about the troops bringing it back in the '90s after going to Iraq and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
I never heard that. No, that's not, I'm, like I said, you're not sticking anything in my pee hole, but, if that's what you're into, hey, well, whatever's clever, that's,
I wouldn't. I don't even know if I would trust my wife to do that, just because I
no,
think she would
no,
be.
thank you. I did have a guy though I had a guy that was into stretching it, you know, so that was interesting. But, we're not, maybe one of these days I'll get in all these weird body modifications I used to do to people, but it was a very professional thing. Like we would stretch it and we would put like like a gauge in it to keep it. I'm
I'm
just gonna stop talking
I'm
about it.
looking at all the sounding kits. I'm looking at all the sounding kits on Amazon, and like, why wouldn't you just automatically buy the most expensive one?
Yeah.
Like, like, I'm
Well,
gonna go for the $35 one. I do not need to look at the fucking 19.99 Amazon Prime. Like, like
gosh. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
just instinctively buy the most expensive one they have. Just
Mhm.
oh my
Mhm.
god.
Man, that's no thank you. Anyway,
Sorry,
so
sorry, sorry, sorry,
with that
sorry.
being said, something happened this week because time travel, fuck it. Something happened this week. Pat, do you want to tell the people about your new thing that you got going on? Well,
Oh my
that you
god,
have
I don't
going
even.
on.
I'm afraid of what you're gonna say now.
What? It has nothing to do with, well, I don't know. You guys might have sounded each other. I don't know why you did it, but no, your new show.
Oh, the wire thing? Yeah. So me and my buddy Vince, who I know because he I lived in an apartment and then I moved out and he moved in after me and threw parties. I threw parties when I lived there, and then when I moved out, he moved in and threw parties. So I used to go to parties in my old apartment because he was living there. And we became buddies, and we just would talk about I ran into him in a bar one night and he was like talking about the wire, and I'm like, yeah, the wire's pretty good. And we would just go back and forth and like talk about it kind of a lot. And we came up with we were like, oh, we should do a podcast about it, and that's kind of what we did. So
Yeah. So Pat has this podcast about The Wire, and it is now available, and it's called Wired in all caps with the exclamation point. But I will put the link down below
you're
for
gonna
you guys.
have to, because like, and me trying to look for it prior to you sending me the link on Anchor, um there is first of all, there's a magazine called Wired, which has a whole slew of podcasts. You're based, and I'm kind of okay with it existing like this. Like, me and Vince both are like, we're not trying to like get famous off this or anything. It's kind of just something that we had for years. We had run into each other at the bar and talked about creating this type of media in the specific way that we did it, and that was always kind of part of the joke and attraction to us, is that we were going to do it, we were going to do it in a certain way. And that's what we did in terms of recording this. We've already recorded the first 3 episodes. The first one went out today, or this week. And then we're still on the fence about whether or not it's going to be a weekly or bi-weekly thing. It all depends on when we can get together to do the next 2 episodes, the last 2 episodes. So and I'm actually going to find that out in the next day or two. So it might be a weekly thing for 5 weeks, or it might be bi-weekly, and we'll stretch it out. I would rather do it weekly and kind of just get it all out. But yeah, it was just, I think that's, as somebody who makes stuff, um, sometimes you get ideas and you just have to go and do it, and sometimes they come to fruition, sometimes they don't. And for every dinosaur erotica audiobook that kind of crashes and burns, you have a Wired that actually
Sure.
sees fruition and comes out. And that's just, it's a numbers game. You know what I mean? Try to make 5 different things, and if you're lucky, one of them will see the light of day. And this is the one of them. But it will not take away from my time on this show at all. At all.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and you're allowed to, like, it's not cheating if I allow it. So, you're allowed to you're allowed to go make stuff. I encourage that. I would like for you to make stuff, and I would love for you guys to support Pat and the things that he makes. So, absolutely go check it out, especially if I'm sure if you watch the show. or maybe you were interested in watching The Wire at one point. You can kind of watch the show and compare notes. I don't know what the hell you guys talked about really. I only edited it, but I didn't know what was going on. So
I don't. Well, that's the other reason that I kind of want this to come out quickly is because we recorded the first three episodes in one night, and by the time episode 3 comes out, we don't know what the fuck is going on, and it's kind of
sure.
this is obviously we're talking about The Wire, so it's like a kind of and a meditation on the series, but it's also this completely other thing too, which it's like I said, it's more performance art than film review or something. It is what it is, and I just invite the audience to check it out if they are so inclined.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, let's links down below for Wired with Pat Owen and his buddy Vince. So
Right.
check that out. But I don't think I have anything else. You got anything else to add here, Pat, before we close it out?
No, that's it for me this week.
All right, just smack booties and smoke doobies. I mean, that's
Oh, I am stealing that one, Ashers.
that's you guys do that, and please, you can have it. Yes, and steal that, please steal it. Put it on
Oh,
a T-shirt.
I got one more. I got one more thing for you.
Oh, go ahead.
So, Delta 8 Delta 8 THC. It's a legal strand of it's not like remember that K2 shit that came out like 10 years
Yeah,
ago that made everyone go
no,
fucking
yeah,
crazy?
yeah.
Okay.
That's just fucked.
Yeah, so this isn't that. Okay. It's basically it's made from hemp, but it's not made from like marijuana hemp. It's made from like the non-psychoactive hemp or something. It's natural. It's not a cannabinoid or whatever those
Okay,
fucking K2 shit was. But it's also not just like weed plant, right? So
okay.
you don't get high, but like have you ever taken like CBD stuff?
Well, I mean, yeah, it doesn't feel like anything.
Well, you're right, but it's supposed to kind of like have all the benefits of smoking weed without getting you like super high, like the head buzz, right? Where like, you get paranoid or you get hungry or you get whatever, right? But as far as like kind of relaxing you a little bit and maybe like helping like your joints or like reduce inflammation or whatever fucking medicinal properties THC is supposed to have. CBD is supposed to have all the medicinal properties without having any of the psychoactive side effects, right? So Delta 8 THC is basically like CBD times a fucking thousand. And I, of course, have access to some of it and tried it this weekend. And whoa, it was it was a very, very, very good experience. And I would recommend it for anybody that normally smokes pot that try this because I was not high in a traditional sense, but it was very helped with anxiety. It helped me sleep. Um, Definitely helped my mood. Not that I'm sure it's hard to imagine, but I can be a cranky bastard sometimes. And I wasn't for a while after taking this shit. So, highly recommend it if you get the chance. Delta 8 THC. It's legal. It's not a Schedule One. You should be able to find it anywhere because those vape shops and those all that CBD places that are popping up all over the place now. You can probably walk in there and buy it. And I would say buy it and buy it in bulk now before the government gets involved and fucks it up. Because it's
Sure.
still legal now, so just buy it in bulk. Trust me. You'll thank me later.
Okay, Delta 8 THC. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and that wasn't a paid advertisement. Even though if they want to give me money, I'll talk about it even
We
more.
will absolutely take the money. Yes, this is yes, absolutely. Or at least the free Delta 8. I mean, that'd be good too.
And you know what? I think we should see about getting our fucking logo slapped on. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna buy one of these sounding kits and just put one of our
Oh my
stickers
god.
on it, and then we'll sell that on the web store.
I just think you
That would
just want to buy
be
a sounding kit. I think you're curious.
hell no, hell no.
Oh,
No,
Pat.
absolutely. That should be our next. We do. Let's do that for like next week's episode. Like, let's talk about. Well, it's just like weird shit like that.
Kinks.
I mean, but not like I'm talking about like fringe stuff, like pony play and like the I don't know. I don't want to call out the pony people.
the pony
The
people,
bronies.
the bronies and the furries and the things like that. I don't know. You know what? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk about kinks next week, guys. I don't know. We'll see. You got a weird kink? Let us know. You have some fetishes? Let us know. I know some really weird ones actually. So maybe we will. Um,
Sure.
but
Let's put it up. Let's do a Twitter poll, and we'll see what we'll let the fans decide. Do you want us to talk about weird kinks, or do you want us to talk about dolphin rape caves?
oh God, you're yeah. You really want to talk about that, don't you?
Well, let's let the audience decide. It's not about me. It's not
You know
about
what?
what I
You're
want.
right. We'll let the audience decide. I agree with you. I'll do it. Fuck it. We'll do a poll. Go over to my Twitter at it's Ashers. Go find my or the at Wednesday's Talk. We'll put it up on the actual podcast. For Twitter for the podcast. And go vote. I'll put it up there. It'll go on for at least the next couple days, and it'll be there. So I'll put it up there. You guys let us know what you want us to talk about next week. So. But with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.